Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Daytona 500 qualifying stream. I'm live from the dorm room once again, and we're going to be bringing you all the action as 42 cars vie for 40 spots for this Sunday's upcoming Daytona 500. The top two will lock into their front row starting positions, and then two of the six open cars will lock their way into the show, while the other four will have to compete for two more spots in the duels tomorrow night. In Duel 1 and Duel 2. We have six open cars that we're going to be keeping an eye on. Now, they'll qualify pretty early on, and the way that works is the top two on speed, like I just said, the top two out of the six open cars will make their way into the show on speed. And just if you're just tuning in and you're not totally, up to date on who the open cars are for this year's Daytona 500, there are six of them, and the first is the number 60, which is an RFK car driven by David Reagan. This is kind of the first attempt of this new Project 60 thing that RFK is attempting to do in this upcoming season. Hey, what's up, Kenneth Clark? How are you doing? Thanks to everybody tuning into the chat. Thanks to everybody that subscribed. We just hit 3,500 subscribers during the Clash stream 2 weeks ago, and I'm excited for what Daytona has in store for us this weekend. I'll be trying to bring you as much of the action that I can. I think the duels right now are the only thing that I'm apprehensive of whether or not I'm going to be able to stream. Otherwise, I'm planning to stream the trucks, ARCA, Xfinity, and then Cup I'm probably going to stream, potentially maybe have like a watch party type thing, so slightly maybe different than my normal stream setup. Anyways, the next open car, probably the biggest one on this list, the 84 of Jimmy Johnson for Legacy Motor Club. If he doesn't make this show, that would be huge, but I have pretty high anticipations that he will get in the show just because they know how big it is for Johnson to make the show, so they're going to put probably the most money of all these six open cars into that 84 for Johnson there. Then the next is the most last-minute entry, and that is New York Racing. That quite literally, this entry wasn't confirmed until basically Monday, and not even really till yesterday when they officially entered the entry list. But just sightings of this hauler appeared on Twitter over the past weekend, and all of a sudden New York Racing's in the big dance. And originally they had Greg Biffle as their driver, but Greg Biffle apparently called him out on social media, saying that he was never paid for the driving he did for them last year, and so he was not going to drive for them in the 500. And then they just announced today their driver for the Daytona 500. Yes, this is like almost taking us back to the early 2000s and further back when drivers and new teams would be added to the entry list last minute. But J.J. Yeley will be piloting that entry. He has tried to qualify his way into the Daytona 500 in the next-gen era with the 55 for MBM. In 2022, he failed to make the show. We'll see if things are different for him this year. Next up, we have the 62 with the Beard Motorsports team. This year, it's Anthony Alfredo, not Austin Hill. That'll be piloting that car in an open attempt here. And then the 36 of Kaz Gralla. He had this race filled in, so that way he will actually be full-time, I believe, for the entire 2024 Cup Series season, making him an eligible contender for the playoffs and the championship. So he'll be driving that third FRM car, which last year I believe made it in on speed, if I'm not mistaken. FRM always tends to have pace at the Super Speedways, evidenced by Michael McDowell's plate win a few years ago, and they have 3 plate wins as an organization in their team's history. And then the last open car is the 78 of BJ McLeod. That car's actually all black. No sponsor on that 78 car this time around. So we'll see what BJ can do. Can he make it into the show? And if so, can he find himself some sponsorship so we don't have an all-black car racing around Daytona this upcoming Sunday? Now, if you did not know, weather is definitely going to be a factor at some point this weekend. Hopefully, no racing on track is delayed. But at least in terms of weather tonight, we are looking clear and crisp. No rain in the area. The first time rain starts to become a threat is more so on Friday, and then really Saturday and Sunday, over 50% chance of rain. So hopefully everything lines up that nothing gets pushed back to Monday or further. But then also, let's go over some drivers in new places for this race tonight, or drivers that are in part-time efforts, just trying to have a good, solid running here and have a decent qualifying spot. We got the 71 of Zane Smith, the rookie. Excuse me. And the in the Aspire and Trackhouse joint effort. We'll see how they do. Obviously, it's going to kind of just be more of a manufacturer thing, I think, than team to team in terms of who has pace. I mean, Hendrick has, dominated the last, 6-7 years of qualifying. I believe Alex Bowman has been on the front row, I think, for 3 or 4 years now. I'm sure the broadcast will mention it at some point. But yeah, I anticipate all 4 Hendrick cars to be locks for the top 10 in this first round of qualifying. Also, that'll be another thing I'll mention quickly. Daytona qualifying, 2 rounds. Everybody goes once, and then the top 10 times will go again to set the top 2 spots for Sunday's main event. Anyways, Then you also have 77 of Carson Hocevar, which will be the first car to go out on the racetrack. After him will be Anthony Alfredo. But then in the 51, you have Justin Haley. He's going to be full-time for Rookware Racing, if you guys did not know that. And they now have that alliance with RFK. So it will be interesting to see how much pace their cars have, considering RFK typically pretty fast at speed weeks. See how much those teams are really working together this weekend. Then you have the 4, which is now driven by Josh Berry after Harvick had piloted that car for so long, brought so much success, won a championship for Stuart Haas. We'll see what Josh Berry can do. He's got big shoes to fill. Then we have the 16, which is driven by AJ Allmendinger, even though he's not going to be full-time this season. So AJ will be behind that machine this weekend. And then his teammate is now a full-timer, though, Daniel Hemrick in the 31. And then the 15 is driven by Riley Herbst like it was last year, and he was able to get a top 10 in his first ever NASCAR Cup Series start. Interesting Riley Herbst stat for you. All 3 of his initial starts in each of the top 3 series, so in Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup, he has gotten a top 10. There's your fun fact of the night. Freeman Motorsports, what you think? Who do I think will win the poll tonight? Good question, Ray Smith. My guess is going to be Chase Elliott will win the poll. I basically could say it's a coin toss between any of the Hendrick Motorsports drivers. I just think the last 2 years, if you just look at the pattern, Hendrick always has pace for Daytona qualifying, even though they have not won a Daytona 500 in that span. Maybe this year they'll finally figure out how to do it on Sunday. But yeah, and then the final driver that's in a new place this year, the number 10, driven by Noah Gragson. So, he had, I guess, a mediocre showing at the Clash. He made it in, but then was by far the worst car in the main field that night. So we'll see what he can do. He had a bit of pace at the plate tracks last year, almost won Talladega until 2 laps to go. So yeah, we'll see what Noah Gragson can do here tonight. But the first qualifying run should be coming up shortly. Like I said, Carson Hocevar will be the first car on track. If you look at the list, that is to my left. Or, well, I guess your guys right. No, my left. Your left. You're right. The order that they're currently on the board, that's the order they'll be going in. So it'll be Hocevar, then Alfredo, then Zane Smith, then Preece, Haley, Reagan, Allmendinger, etc., etc. So, yeah, the first open car to go, or I guess in order of the open cars. Excuse me. So, Alfredo will be the first open car, and then next up will be Reagan, then McLeod, then Yaley, then Garala, and the last one will be Johnson. So Johnson will have probably the most pressure on him. He can either make it or miss it, whereas when Alfredo goes, we won't really have a good indicator of how good of a lap time he's set until the other guys go. The most interesting open car for me is definitely the 44 of J.J. Yaley and New York Racing. I'm not sure if they're really going to have pace here in this qualifying session. I don't anticipate them to race their way into the show. They're probably the least likely candidate, in my opinion. But I'm also interested to see if they're, if you recall, the money team when they raced last year with the 50, that car looked horrendous in its qualifying lap. I mean, they basically just barely even gotten the car out the hauler and onto the racetrack when they went into their qualifying run. So we'll see if that car is more on par with that. Also, this whole, New York Racing just kind of emerging here. It was cool to see. It kind of reminds me of, hearing stories just about cars just showing up to Daytona and other plate tracks back in the 2000s and further on back when you could really just kind of show up and race. You had the car and had the budget, whereas nowadays just with the finances of how open cars really don't make that much money anymore, you just don't really see that. And there's not many surprise entries, but still cool to see what New York Racing's doing here with J.J. Yaley, even if there are all the kind of mysterious rumors about Greg Biffle not getting paid, etc., etc. Okay. All right. Okay, I think Hocevar, there we go. First car's away. Carson Hocevar rolling off a pit lane. Okay, so Hocevar coming out onto the racetrack in his number 77 Spire Motorsports Gainbridge and Gainbridge and Ziegler Chevrolet. I'm really interested to see what Spire can do this year. Obviously, we saw Hocevar in that number 7 car at Gateway last year, and he had, honestly, in my opinion, one of the most impressive runs of that season. Obviously, a much more impressive run than what Corey LaJoie was doing in the 9 car that day. Hocevar drove up into the top 20. I think he was in 17th at the time of him losing brakes going into turn 1. I think Hocevar, honestly, could have had an outside shot at a top 10, which would really have been phenomenal in that 7 car in his first ever Cup Series start, I believe. So I've really high standards for Hocevar, but also this could be a big challenge for LaJoie. I think this is obviously the biggest contender of a teammate he's had so far in his career. So if Hocevar comes in and blows him out the water, that's going to be a real shot at LaJoie, who's really been the main guy at Spire for quite some time. But also, if Spire or if LaJoie can hold his own against Hocevar, who's a fairly proven talent up to this point, I think that'll also look really good for LaJoie on his resume. Either way, I think Spire Motorsports is heading in a great direction with all the financial investments they've received from Andretti and Gainbridge over the last season. But yeah, now he's running it down the back straightaway. I believe it was Noah Gragson or David Reagan, one of them, talking about in the pre-race or the pre-qualifying interviews, just saying, as a driver, you're just kind of making sure you're getting up through the gears right, trying to get the best launch out of pit road, and then after that, it's all up to the engineers and the guys back at the shop that set up these race cars to see who's really going to be the pole sitter here, who can build up the most speed over one lap around Daytona. Well, Hocevar's got the green flag now, and he's going to... Oh, that was actually one lap. So he already threw a lap in the books at a 50.589. Oh, wow, I got you. He started yapping. Here comes Alfredo now out of turn number 4. This is the first open car. So Hocevar's 50.589. We'll see how that stacks up. Last year, the pole sitter was, I believe, right around a 49 and a half-ish. So, Hocevar definitely not on pole-setting pace, I would imagine, right now. And Alfredo already a considerable amount faster. Now, that Beard Motorsports car is going to get quite a bit of assistance from RCR, so his pace will probably be fairly indicative of how Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch are going to do later tonight. Already off of turn number 2, he's got 2/10 on Hocevar's car. Oh, my goodness. They've got to mess up on the graphic. They've got Travis Pastrana's car up on the graphic right now. It would be cool if Pastrana was running the race again this year. I will admit that, but he's not. No 67 entry on this year's entry list. Still, this lap from Alfredo looking pretty solid. He's up 4.5 tenths as he's coming into the tri-oval. This lap here, I think, should be good enough to lock him in. Based off of last year's time, that's a solid lap. That's a 50.098. That's a really solid lap out of the 62 right there. So now, next up, we got the 71 is Zane Smith. Then after that, it'll be Ryan Preece, Justin Haley, and then the next open car, the 60 of David Reagan. Right now, if you guys just want to know my top open car candidates for racing their way in on speed, the 62, because they got that RCR Alliance, and then also the 60, obviously that's an RFK machine, and then, the 84, Jimmy Johnson. Legacy Motor Club does not want Jimmy Johnson miss the Daytona 500, I can promise you that. Already, though, across the line for Zane Smith, and he's already in the red. So Anthony Alfredo able to build up more speed coming to the green flag. Zane Smith currently about a tenth down as he's going through about the center of turns 1 and 2. Thanks to everybody watching. Appreciate it. If you drop a like and subscribe, we'll be live for pretty much all of the Speed Weeks action this weekend. So he's about 2.5 tenths off of Alfredo currently. Now going into turns 3 and 4. Definitely faster than Hocevar's time still. Hocevar, like I said, this is his first time at Daytona on a Cup car. Same thing for Zane Smith. And Zane Smith about a tenth and a half faster than Hocevar, but both of their times quite a bit slower than Alfredo. And, both of these guys, though, have never even turned a lap because there is no longer practice before Daytona 500 qualifying, which has really been a controversial topic recently. But, so these rookies really have no experience when it comes to this, doing a lap around Daytona. Ryan Preece going around the racetrack. He'll get the green flag for his lap in the Haas number 41. That scheme looks nice, I'm not going to lie. I know a lot of people kind of nag on the Stewart Haas racing cars because you'll maybe have like 2 Haas primarily sponsored race cars on the racetrack, but hey, they got the money. Haas has got them deep pockets, and this is a solid scheme here on this 41, especially on this new Ford Dark Horse Mustang. Okay, they don't really have the live telemetry perfectly right now, but I would imagine based off what I'm seeing, it looks like Preece is currently in the green relative to Alfredo by a decent amount as they come off of turn 4. And across the line, Ryan Preece will go to the top of the board by a second and a half. So we're down to 49.95 right now. First car, sub 50-second marker. That's the number 41 of Ryan Preece. Here we go. Next up, we got the 51 of Justin Haley. He's got Jacob Industries faux on that car. That treetop apple juice on the hood. If you recall, Justin Haley actually already has a win at Daytona in the summer race during a rain-shortened and lightning eventually is what ended that race, I believe, in 2019. So he won with the 77 of Spire Motorsports. That was a crazy win. I think a lot of people forget about that. But Justin Haley, technically already a Cup Series winner. I'm sure he'd love to get another one, not let that be the only victory he has in the Cup Series. Down the back straightaway, they don't really have, I think their telemetry is a little messed up right now, so they don't have it on the live screen. I will say that paint scheme for the 51, not the best looking car, I'm not going to lie. It's primarily a black base. Looks like they kind of just slapped the logos on there. Currently, 2/10 up on Preece's time. It looks like he'd be on pace for third right now out of the 4 cars that have gone so far. And across the line, he's going to be just about 3/10 north of Preece's lap time. So I'm interested to see how close the Rick Ware Racing cars are to the RFK cars. Next up, we got the next open car, David Reagan. Reagan trying to get into the race on speed tonight. He himself has a win at Daytona all the way back in 2011. But he has always been a solid plate racer. Then we have A.J. Allmendinger after him, the next open car, B.J. McLeod, and then Nemechek and Riley Herbst are the next 5 cars up to bat. Across the line, Reagan a little bit slower than Preece out the gates, but definitely not too far off the pace. But we're really just comparing him to the 62 of Alfredo. That's the primary car he wants to beat right now. Thanks, everybody watching. Hey, put in the chat below, who do you think's going to win this year's Daytona 500 poll? Will it be Hendrick once again sweeping the front row? We'll find out here tonight. Oh, right now Reagan, he's now fallen back behind Alfredo on the scoring sheet. I think he's going to be just above Haley. And, I mean, his lap time is very close to Haley's. So we could see that those RFK cars and Rick Ware cars are really close on pace, but looking at the metrics so far, that's not really going to be too fast. And now throw Reagan up to third on the speed chart, ahead of Haley, but behind Alfredo. That's the key car. So right now, Reagan already the open car on the chopping block after only 2 of them have gone. Here comes A.J. Allmendinger in the number 16 Celsius-powered machine. It's a shame Allmendinger's not full-time this year, but I think he'll definitely be a threat to win at least once or twice this season in the Cup Series. And Colleague is really bringing the load out this weekend to Daytona. They've got the 2 Cup Series cars, but beyond that, they are bringing 5 Xfinity Series cars. That's right, 5. You have the number 10 with Daniel Dye. Then you have the number 97 with SVG. The 14 with Daniel Suarez, which is technically not a Trackhouse car, but it's prepped by Trackhouse. And then you have the 13 of... oh my gosh, I'm blinking. Is the 11 Allmendinger this year now? And then the 13 is... Chandler Smith? No, Chandler Smith got booted. I don't know. Anyways, there's 5 Colleague cars in the Xfinity Series this year. I just totally had a blank right there. Anyways, and Allmendinger's time's going to be good for third, just slower than Alfredo. But, I mean, he's locked into the show, so doesn't matter a ton. Here comes B.J. McLeod in the all-black, unsponsored 78. We'll see how much speed he's got in this one. I like I said, I think this car is probably the least likely to qualify in on speed. And already he's about a 10th down before he gets to turn 1. Yeah, this is probably going to be the slowest qualifying time here of the night. We'll just see what they can do in the duels, though. Who knows what can happen? We saw that number 50, the Money Team car that barely could even get a qualifying lap in, race their way into the show in the duel. So maybe that'll be B.J. McLeod this year. And off of turn number 4, McLeod's going to be about 7.5 tenths, 8 tenths off the pole time. Currently, he's going to throw down a 50.7? 50.75 for McLeod. Currently the slowest time so far. Next up is going to be Jonathan Nemechek. His first start with his new team, Legacy Motor Club. This will be a fairly good indication of how much speed Jimmy Johnson's going to have. See if he's going to have the pace to race his way in tonight and not have to stress in the duels. Currently, though, Ryan Preece has set a pretty considerable lap time relative to the other cars on track, about a 10.5 up of currently second place Anthony Alfredo. And wow, Nemechek does not have the pace right now. He's being shown in 7th out of the cars that have gone so far. He's already 2 tenths off of Preece's time as he comes out in turn 2. This is not looking good for what Johnson's hopes could be once he gets on track. All right, thanks to everybody watching. Appreciate if you drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Oh, we were up 1 and we were down 1. All right. Off at turn number 4. Yeah, this lap time from Nemechek here. Not looking good for Johnson. He's going to go probably in the 8th position. About 7 tenths off. He throws down a 50.6 something. Leaderboard was not able to update. Next up, we got Riley Herbst in the 15 for Rick Rare Racing. Like I said, they had a top 10 effort last time around in the Daytona 500, so I think they're a sneaky underdog pick. Got 1 Xfinity Series win at Las Vegas last year, and it looks like they've got pace here. He's already in the green across the line, so it looks like he had a good up-to-speed lap. I think it's all about getting out of the pits and having that up-to-speed lap down, because you're not going to make up time really over the course of a lap because you're just flat out the whole way. If you start across the line and you're in the red, you're going to probably finish in the red. If you start across the line in the green, you're going to probably finish in the green. And right now, Herbst, I mean, he is just ever so slightly higher than Preece, but he had a slight bobble into turn 3. It's going to be really close right here. Across the line, I mean, this is going to be literally thousandths of a second. Top of the charts for Riley Herbst. New pole time. 10 cars have gone so far. So yeah, 10 cars have gone so far. We got Herbst up top with the 49.94. Then in second, Ryan Preece. Then Alfredo, Allmendinger, Reagan, Haley, Zane Smith, Hocevar, Nemechek, BJ McLeod, the slowest of the 10 to go. Next up, we got Austin Dillon. He's going to start his lap in the green relative to Riley Herbst. Also, all the guys that have already gone have a ton of experience at Daytona in the next-gen car, so they're up to speed laps. Their qualifying laps themselves are probably not going to be as good as the guys with more experience with trying to just do one hot lap around Daytona in these next-gen cars. So already Dillon considerably up, a 10th in the green relative to Riley Herbst. I mean, he is flying. He might be 2 tenths up in the green by the time he gets back to the checkered flag here. I mean, Dillon is flying. And Austin Dillon's going to go to the top of the charts with a 49.74. And they're going to go to commercial break. That's the first 11 drivers complete with their runs. Next up will be J.J. Yaley in New York Racing trying to qualify their way in on speed tonight. Then Daniel Hemrick, Noah Gragson, Corey LaJoie, and Chase Briscoe, the next 5 up. Thanks to everybody watching. So who you think's going to win the poll in the chat tonight? Let's start a poll. Who wins the poll? We'll say Toyota, Ford, or Chevrolet. Okay. There we go. Feel free to vote in the chat. So we've got 3 open cars that have gone so far. McLeod's already, put himself in a position where he's going to have to race his way in. He's the 3rd quickest. Then Reagan's the first one on the chopping block. Then Alfredo is the one that's, quote, the safest for now. Yes, and then, so next up we're going to have Yaley, then it'll be Garala, and Johnson will be the final one to go. Currently, off of the evidence I have before me, I would say I think Alfredo is good to make the show. Their time looks very respectable. The drivers I don't think will. I don't see the Yaley. I don't see that 44 car part-time operation having the pace. They do have a Hendrick engine apparently, so we'll see how many Hendrick parts they have besides just a Hendrick engine. See how much pace they really have. I don't think it's going to be enough. Then Johnson, I don't think they're going to have the pace. I mean, Nemechek's time that he just threw down was not impressive in the least. So that is slightly concerning for Johnson, considering now it's going to come down to the duels for him. In theory. And then I do think the 36, though, of Kaz Gralla has a good chance of making it in. Just the Fords have pace at qualifying. FRM has had pace in qualifying. So I trust Kaz Gralla to make his way in on speed. So that means my 2 picks for now are going to be Alfredo and Gralla to make their way in on pace tonight. We'll see if my predictions turn true. Obviously, though, I think who's going to win the pole in general, though, is still wide open. We haven't seen any of the big teams throw a car on track yet, and Austin Dillon just went and blew the current times that had been set out of the water by 2/10. So I think the limit in terms of pace is still far from over. Interesting. Hocevar had his highest speed of anybody when he crossed the start-finish line so far, but he has the 9th fastest lap out of 11. I'd be interested to see more with that. Okay, now here comes J.J. Yaley with the New York Racing 44. I think this is potentially the most interesting entry on this year's entry list. Last year they didn't get in on speed. We'll see what they can do this time around. Also, we'll see how much speed that car has, if they're, considerably off the pace from everybody else, or if they're, solidly in the mid-pack. It is reported that they do have a Hendrick engine underneath that hood. Here we go. Here he goes. And he starts, and he is, yikes. Okay, it does not look like they're going to have the pace. He's already he's 2/10 off by the time we get to turn 1. Okay. So he is half a second off. By the time he exits turn 2, he is easily going to be a second plus off of Dillon's time. So Biffle definitely going to have to race his way into the show. The only thing going for him, or I guess this is not going for him, I take it back, is he's probably going to be behind McLeod, and there's going to be nobody else in between them. So McLeod and Yaley will be in opposite heats. So they're going to have to really compete with each other. Or not compete with each other, but it's going to be, pretty big, underdog fights here. It's probably going to be, McLeod versus Reagan or Johnson, and then the opposite driver of that duo to go against Yaley. So they're definitely going to be in underdog fights come Thursday. Next up, Daniel Hemrick in the 31. Not his first Daytona 500, as he ran a rookie season with RCR back in the day now. So he's already got some Cup Series, reps. Hemrick is roughly in the 8th position, or 6th position still. So flirting around that mid-pack a little bit slower than his teammate Allmendinger's lap time for now. Also, so next cars after that, for those wondering, No Gregson, Corey LaJoy, Chase Briscoe, Kaz Gralla, Harrison Burton, So the next cars to qualify. Thanks, everybody, watching for now. Okay, across the line, Daniel Hemrick's going to throw down 6th on the scoring charts. That'll put him ahead of David Reagan. That doesn't really matter to Reagan. It's more so just his time relative to the other open cars. Currently, Alfredo's got the fastest open car time. And unless the 2 cars that are yet to go faster than him, he is currently locked in. So is David Reagan. But I don't know if that time's going to hold. McLeod and Yaley are already in in dual positions where they're going to have to race their way in through the duel tomorrow night. Noah Gragson. And this time's looking pretty fast. Pretty comparative to his teammates' time of Brian Preece right now. He's currently looking to slot into the 4th position as he goes through turn 1 and 2. I'm waiting to see another top-tier Chevy go to see if they're on pace with Dylan's time or faster. Keep in mind, Dylan already has 1 Daytona 500 pole in his career. Gragson through turns 3 and 4. He's going to be about 2/10 up from Dylan's time, and that'll throw him into the 4th position. Just under the 50-second mark. Okay, right now, the Stewart-Haas cars close on pace. The Collard cars close on pace. Also, the 2 Spire cars, Zane Smith and Hocevar, close on pace, but also they're rookies, so it's kind of hard to truly gauge. Now we'll see Corey LaJoie's time. That'll probably be a better indicator on if he's right in that group or not. And right now, he's currently flirting around the 7th position. Now 9th. So it looks like he's going to be very close in pace to his other teammates. Corey LaJoie got that Chili sponsorship on board this weekend. Cool to see a main brand popping out for the Daytona 500. So after this run, 15 cars will have gone. Keep in mind, the top 10 make their way into the second round of qualifying where the front row for the Daytona 500 will be set. These lap times don't really matter in terms of, I guess, the next round. If you're in the top 10, you're going to have to go out and do it again. And, yeah, LaJoie will throw down 10th place. And there you go. The teams are all kind of similar. They're obviously all pretty much running very similar setups. So that makes sense. But, yeah, LaJoie, Zane Smith, Hocevar, all teammates 10th, 11th, 12th. So we got Chase Briscoe up next. And if he's anything like how his teammates have run, he'll be going into the 3rd, 4th, 5th position, somewhere in there. And right now, Briscoe a little bit slower. Honestly, right now on his pace as his teammates. Currently in 4th, which is where Gregson's qualified. Okay, next up on the qualifying chart is going to be Kaz Gralla. So the next open car to go. The 5th open car to go, matter of fact. So if Kaz Gralla does not beat Anthony Alfredo is locked into this year's Daytona 500. If Kaz Gralla does beat Anthony Alfredo, then Kaz Gralla is locked into this year's Daytona 500. And Briscoe is going to go down as 5th on the speed charts, just behind his teammates. Or actually, no, 4th, just barely. So right with his teammates, Preece and Gregson. And now we got Kaz Gralla up to bat. Now, he can still beat David Reagan in the 9th position, and as long as Johnson doesn't go faster than him, he's in the show. So he doesn't have to beat Alfredo's time per se. Just if he beats Alfredo's time, then he's guaranteed into the show. Right now, though, Austin Dillon's still the fastest time out of the 16 cars that have gone so far, and by a considerable amount, too, just over 0.2 of a second, which, when it comes to Daytona, that's a pretty large amount of time. Oh, is there a problem here for the 36? And it looks like Kaz Grala's got a problem. Issue here for Kaz Grala. He's slow on the apron through turns 3 and 4, and I mean, he's done. That's it. Kaz Grala's going to be done because even if he gets the car going again, he's not going to have near enough momentum to set any time close to what the leaders have set. So that's going to lock Alfredo into the show. But also, that does change things potentially with the open cars and the duels. Anyways, Alfredo's into the dance. And Grala's going to be 17th on the board, last of the cars to run tonight. Basically a DNQ. And there goes one of my picks. So my picks were Alfredo and Grala to make their way in on speed. Oh, my goodness. Shifter just comes off of the 36. And you see he's shaking his head inside the car. So things are going to get a lot more tense for Kaz Grala tomorrow night during the duels. So now Jimmie Johnson just needs to beat David Ragan to get into this year's Daytona 500. He's got to run at least a 50.199. Alfredo, I mean, I don't know. I'm happy for the guy. I've actually met Alfredo a few times. I go to Dover every year, and by random chance, the last 2 years, I have stayed in the same hotel as Anthony Alfredo and seen him at breakfast the day of the NASCAR Xfinity Series race. So just random chance right there. And it was 2 different hotels each year. Even funnier. Okay, so as long as Johnson doesn't go slower than Grala, it should be McLeod and Grala competing for a spot and Yaley and Johnson competing for a spot. Or Yaley and Ragan, potentially, if Johnson goes faster. Okay, here comes Harrison Burton after Burton. It'll be Gilliland, then Cindric, and Johnson, then Jones. Harrison Burton, we'll see what he can do. This will probably show us about the pace the Penske cars will have. He's currently running right around the 4th position, assuming his Delta currently. So right on par with the Stewart-Haas cars, the other top Fords. Still the fastest Ford currently is Riley Herbst with the Rick Earl Racing 15. Now that car I feel like could be Stewart-Haas prepped. I'm not totally sure. Burton now actually moving up to 2nd, so we actually saw that car pick up a little bit of time relative to his competitors down the back straightaway. So it looks like that car is a bit more straight line speed. And across the line for Harrison Burton, he's going to go 2nd on the score charts. A 10th.5 still, though, off of Austin Dillon's top time currently. 49.903 for Harrison Burton. Now we've got Todd Gilliland in the 38 generator machine in this paint scheme. Whew, that red and black with that lightning bolt. That thing looks hot. Todd Gilliland across the line, and he's reading right around 4th or so down into turns 1 and 2. So now it all comes down to Jimmie Johnson, like I just said. We're going to find out probably the biggest storyline, in qualifying is really not who's going to win the pole. I mean, that's one of them. But really, which open cars lock their way into the show. Because, you can win the pole for the Daytona 500, but winning the pole has almost no weight in whether or not you're going to win the race come Sunday. Or Monday this year, considering the amount of rain we're probably going to get. I just want to see DJ Khaled wave the green flag. Okay, off of turn 4. Gillen trending pretty solid. He's right about the 3rd position. And across the line, he is going to go 3rd. I mean, he's really close to Burton's time. Oh my goodness, only 0.003 of a second slower than Burton's time. So right now you got a Chevy on top, but then you got Fords in 2nd through 7th. And then you got pretty much all Chevrolets behind them. Now we're going to see what is Austin Cindric's time compared to Harrison Burton. I'm going to imagine Cindric's going to go right about the 2nd position here. Right now trending in the green, actually. Into turns 1 and 2, just ever so slightly, a few thousandths up on Austin Dillon. But keep this in mind, though, like I said, when these guys cross the line, if they're in the green or in the red, that's pretty much going to show if they're going to be above the cut line or below the cut line. Because you don't really lose speed around the racetrack when you're going flat out. There might be a few cars that have a bit more straight line speed down the back straightaway, and as I say that, out of turn 2, Cindric was up almost 200ths, a whopping 200ths on Austin Dillon, but down the back straightaway, that gap shrunk, and now through turns 3 and 4, now he's about 300ths down. He should still be solidly in the 2nd position across the line, but he gave up about 700ths of a second there. We really haven't seen that type of movement on the Delta line right there. But either way, Cindric, 2nd on the board. He's the Daytona 500 winner. Don't forget that. Thanks, everybody, watching. Appreciate it. If you drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hey, what's up? How you doing? Zika? Sorry if I mispronounced that. And Jimmie Johnson's on the track. This is the final open car. The only car he cares about, the only lap time he cares about is a 52nd and 2/10 lap from David Ragan. He just has to beat that to lock himself into the Daytona 500. Now, the only thing I'm worried about is Nemechek's lap time was very unimpressive. He's currently 17th out of 19 cars that even made a lap, a 50.6. That would have him a half a second below the cut line. Here we go. We'll see what Johnson can do. I'm going to imagine he's going to be faster than Nemechek. Ragan watching on to see if he's going to get in. Currently flirting right around the bubble. Currently in the 10th, 11th position. Oh, boy. Right now, relative to Ragan, he's a bit slower. We'll see down the back straightaway. Will the 84 make up any speed in the straight line? Currently 600ths down the back straightaway. Now Johnson's about 1/10 in the red as we go into turns 3 and 4. It doesn't look like he's going to make it. He's definitely faster than Nemechek's time, but across the line, and it looks like it's going to be Johnson missing out on this year's Daytona. Well, not missing out, but not locking his way in tonight. And Johnson goes down in 15th. Ragan's in the show. So the drivers that lock in tonight, Anthony Alfredo and David Ragan. A lot of nerves relieved for the 60 car, but now Johnson's got some work cut out for him. And it looks like the drivers that should be in the duels together, in theory, are going to be Johnson and McLeod competing for a spot, and then Nemechek and who am I looking at? And then I take it back. It's going to be Johnson and Yaley competing for a spot, and then McLeod and Garala competing for a spot, if my math is correct. So that's that. So Johnson is far from out of the woods for now. I mean, obviously, I'd say right now the favorable bets are Johnson will race his way in, and so will Garala. But you never know what chaos can happen when things just don't go your way. Thanks, everybody watching. Eric Jones going to throw down an 11th quick, a little faster than Johnson and Nemechek. Now, he does have more experience in this next-gen car than both of them, so that could be a factor there. Yeah, right now, no Toyotas have set many fast laps, but only Legacy Motor Club has gone so far. Next up, we have Denny Hamlin. Or do we? Okay, I think they're going to... So we're doing a commercial break, and then the next 20 cars will go. So it'll be Hamlin, then Josh Berry, Keselowski, Stenhouse, the defending winner of the 500, and Ryan Blaney, the next 5 cars up to bat. So, I mean, a few heavy hitters there. Hamlin, we'll see what speed the JGR Toyotas have with him. Keselowski, we'll see what speed he has, him and Chris Buescher. Larson will be the 6th car to go once we get back, and he'll be an indication of what Hendrick has brought this year. And obviously, Hendrick's so dominant in Daytona 500 qualifying recently. We'll see if anybody can dethrone them in their front row lockout for, I believe, like the last 4 years now. Okay, oh, also, I just noticed my leaderboard. Yeah, there we go. We fixed the leaderboard for you. Okay. So, guys, if you're just tuned in, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. I'm going to be live for almost all of the Speed Week's action, starting with the Trucks race, and then the Xfinity, and then obviously the Cup Series race come Sunday. The duels, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do. We'll see this year. That'll kind of be spontaneous if that happens. I'll let you guys know in a community post or on Instagram or something ahead of time. We got 40 people in here, though. Appreciate it. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe. Had over 400 of you guys pop in at some point throughout the night. Appreciate it. Currently under commercial break, still 20 cars to qualify. If you're just tuning in, the open cars that have made their way into the show, Anthony Alfredo and David Reagan have made their way in on speed. In the duels, it'll be Johnson versus Daly, and then McLeod versus Gralla for those final 2 Daytona 500 starting positions. Now Hamlin's going to be rolling out onto the racetrack for his qualifying lap. Hamlin rolling onto the racetrack. Now we get to the heavy hitters, I'd say. I'm very interested. Also, yeah, Hamlin putting his hand up through that kind of that little gap in the window net. I'm sure these engineers have done enough research to see that, maybe putting your hand in that small gap going down the back straightaway is enough to save you even a couple thousandths of a second, and they will take that because right now the cut line, Allmendinger and Jones have run the same lap time down to the very 10,000th or to the very 1,000th of a second. So literally any small advantage you can find could make the difference here in Daytona 500 qualifying. And currently in the red though, relative to the 10th position, only a little bit as he goes into turn 1 and 2. I mean, the Toyotas haven't shown qualifying pace here, but when it comes to the race pace, the Daytonas have been the one to beat. The Daytona. Did I say the Daytonas? The Toyotas have been the ones to beat in the Daytona 500. I mean, obviously Hamlin has 3 Daytona 500 wins himself. He's always a threat. Yeah, this pace here, this is just not going to be enough here for Hamlin. He's going to be 2/10 off of this cut line. This is probably going to throw him right around in the mid-pack with Johnson, probably about 16th out of only 20 cars that have run just about. And yeah, I called it right there, 16th out of, I believe, 23 or 24 cars now. 16th out of 23 cars. So very unimpressive lap time there from Hamlin. So he's not going to have a great dual starting position, but obviously they can progress their way forward through the duels tomorrow night and have a better starting position come Sunday. Now we got Josh Berry with Stuart Haas. Now what I would expect out of this lap right here would be something in like the 5th to 8th place range just about. And he's currently in the green relative to Allmendinger's lap time in the 10th position. Just barely, though. I mean, by a couple thousandths of a second as he's going down the back straightaway. And he is starting to lose a little bit of that time. I mean, also, a huge factor here, a slight tailwind, a slight headwind down the back stretch can quite literally be that few thousandths of a second for these guys. So much of it can really just almost be out of the driver's control. This is really a competition for the engineers to see who can just design the fastest car to go one lap flat out. And into the tri-oval. Looks like Allmendinger had maybe just ever the slightest bobble into the tri-oval. Oh, I take it back though. It looked like he was in the green coming across the line, but it throws him down in 12th, 1,000th of a second out of the top 10. Now here comes Brad Keselowski. If he's on pace with David Reagan, then he'll be outside the top 10, but I think they might put a little more juice into the 6 and the 17 than they do that 60 car. We'll see here. And yeah, he is already in the green across the line, and it looked like he was up more than I thought. Now he's dropping back into the red by the time he gets to turn 1. It's going to be really close, but honestly, if you're not in the top 5 right now, I don't think you're even making it into the top 10 cut, considering the amount of high-tier cars that haven't gone. Frankly, I think Austin Dillon and Austin Cindric are the only guys that are maybe locked in to the next round of qualifying, just considering the amount of talent and the amount of, not really the amount of talent, but the amount of money backing the teams that still have to go. The amount of talent in the workspace is probably a better way of putting it. And it looks like he's going to be just a couple hundredths of a second out with the top 10. This will throw him right around where his teammate David Reagan qualified a little faster. And there you go. He just takes David Reagan's spot in 14th. Now we got Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the defending Daytona 500 winner, up to bat. I think the 47 is really one of the most interesting teams still in the Cup Series. I mean, just a single-car team in this era of just where teams are trying to get bigger and bigger, have more and more alliances, and it's just them. And, I mean, they just continue to find ways to get it done at the plate races over the last 4 or 5 years, however long their partnership has gone now. I think almost longer than that, actually. More so just Stenhouse as an individual. He's just had to have one of the most interesting careers. Because if he does not have those plate wins back when he was in the 17, I highly doubt he's still in the Cup Series. But he gets it done at the plate tracks, unlike I think really anybody else in this modern era. Especially considering just that team. This is such a small team. So I mean, they're the underdog I love to cheer for at these super speedways. I'm going to turn 4, though. They're not going to have the pace to crack the top 10, but I don't think that matters to them. And they're going to go down in the 17th position out of everybody that's gone so far. Here comes Ryan Blaney. Now, I would expect a top 5 time out of this 12 car right now, at minimum. I think they might be able to challenge Austin Dillon for the current number 1 spot on the leaderboard. It's a current reigning NASCAR Cup Series champion Ryan Blaney, Netflix star, out onto the racetrack now. Here we go. They're not showing his delta. They're just showing this promo on the board. So I'm not really sure how fast he's going. Next up after Blaney will be Larson, then Logano, Byron, and Reddick. So we'll see what pace the Hendricks cars have here at Daytona. Currently, Blaney's in the green, but really not by much. I would not consider him, quote, safe to the cutoff line with the lap time he's going to throw down. He is going to go 9th fastest. So, yeah, that's definitely not going to hold up for long. A 50.003 for Blaney. Quite a bit slower than Cindric and Burton, his two, quote, teammates. But that makes it 1 Chevy leading 8 Fords currently on the leaderboard. Here comes Kyle Larson, though. Now we'll see what he can do already in the green by a decent amount. Half a tenth up on the cut line. 1/10 up on the cut line by the time he gets to turn number 1. Okay, so they have 9 straight Daytona 500s with drivers on the front row and 3 straight with the front row lockout. Yeah, down the back straightaway. I mean, he's in the green. I want to see his time relative to Dylan's. Will this be a new time for the top of the board? I don't know, actually. I think the telemetry's messed up. I take it back. This might be this. I think this is going to be top of the charts here for Kyle Larson, and potentially in a big way across the line for Kyle Larson, and he's going to put that 5 car to the top of the charts. 49.73. So only up 100th of a second, a whopping 100th of a second over Austin Dillon. Now, I think that time by Larson and potentially Dillon's time are probably going to be good enough for the next round. We'll see. Here comes Logano. I'd imagine he'll be 3rd or 4th or so after his lap. But Blaney did not have a good, I think, up-to-speed lap, and that's why he's down in 10th relative to his teammates. But you can see the teams are together, but more so just the manufacturers as a whole qualifying together in terms of pace. You got the Chevrolets currently 1-2, or at least the bigger funded Chevrolets. Then you got just all Fords, 3rd through 10th position right now, Fords. And then you got kind of a mixture of a few more Chevrolets, but right now, really towards the bottom of the leaderboard are the Toyotas. But, some teams focus more on the qualifying pace, and they just want to, show off their sponsors, on this Wednesday night, and other ones just are building more of a race setup for their cars. And Logano's throwing down a monster lap currently, actually. I didn't even notice this. This is going to be the new fastest time of the night right here for Joey Logano. Maybe he's got something for these Chevys. Maybe Penske's built something for Hendrick this year. Logano is going to go to the top of the charts, 49.641, up by almost a whole 1/10 of a second over Larson. That was a monster lap from the 22. That was a fast lap there for Logano. Now here comes Byron. Can he contest that lap time from Logano? And honestly, I did not like this Exalta scheme at first, and actually, I think it's a little better now. It's a little better. Nothing like what it could have been or what it once was. But I will admit, at least under the lights, the little red flames really do pop on the white base. I mean, it is a shame they really could do so much more with the scheme, but it's not bad. I don't really understand who at Hendrick is designing the schemes to do basically just a basic white car with the logo slapped on and then a few tiny things that are, associated with that brand. Here we go. He's about 2/10 up on the cutoff line as he comes through the tri-oval. I think this will be good for about a 4th or 5th on the leaderboard. Actually, 2/10 up almost by the time he got there. And that will be 4th on the leaderboard. Okay, next up, now we got Tyler Reddick, another Toyota here. Like I said, the Toyotas have kind of struggled for pace here in qualifying. The highest right now currently is Jones in 15th, and I don't see Reddick going any faster than that. I think this is going to be a sub-20th qualifying run, frankly, from Tyler Reddick. And, yeah, he's about a half a tenth down on Briscoe going into turn 1. Not actually a huge margin so far, but it's going to grow over the course of this next lap. After Reddick, we've got another Toyota of Christopher Bell, then Alex Bowman, then Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, the next cars after that. Hey, we got 50 people in here. Appreciate it. Drop a like and subscribe if you have not already. Good 25 likes. I appreciate it. Right now, and this lap is going to throw him about 3.5 tenths below the current cutoff line, and yep, like I said, outside of the top 20, as I anticipated. Yeah, right now I only see the top 4 that have run or the top 4 currently on the leaderboard that are going to be locked into the top 10 for the next round. I think all the Fords currently just above the cutoff line are really in jeopardy here because you still have 2 Hendrick cars to go and 1 more RCR car. So that's 3 cars that I'm going to imagine will be above that cut line. And that'll make it 7. And now there aren't any more Penske Fords to go. I don't know. We'll see. We still have the 2 Trackhouse cars. We'll see how much speed the Trackhouse cars have relative to RCR and Hendrick. And yeah, Bell's out here on the track. And yeah, this is just not going to be enough to crack the top 10. Yeah, Kurt Busch fan. The poll has not been decided yet, but yeah, Jimmy is not in. Jimmy is not in. He's going to have to race his way in through the duels tomorrow. I believe he has to beat the 44 of J.J. Ailey to get in tomorrow. So, shouldn't be too hard a task considering the 44 did not have much pace tonight. Their qualifying run about half a second slower than anybody else. And then, so yeah, I think Johnson should have them. H Sonic Channel, how are you doing? Good evening. Thanks to anybody tuning in. If you haven't voted in the poll already, go ahead. Currently, 60% of you guys think Chevy will win the poll, 26% say Ford, and 14% say Toyota. Hey, anybody going to be at Atlanta in the chat? Anybody going to be at Atlanta? Because I might be at Atlanta in 2 weeks. Let me know. Okay, they're going to cut to commercial, though, once again. And I guess we'll go over the cars that are still yet to qualify. Still Alex Bowman, Ty Gibbs, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, Ross Chastain, Chris Buescher, Martin Truex Jr., Michael McDowell, Daniel Suarez, and Bubba Wallace. So, oh, somebody just subscribed. Thank you, H Sonic Channel. Appreciate it. So people we know are pretty much not making it based off how their teammates have run. I would say, I'd comfortably say Bubba Wallace won't make it in. The Toyotas don't have it. Same thing with Truex and Ty Gibbs. I think McDowell kind of has a chance. The Fords could do it. Chris Buescher, I don't think will do it. RFK doesn't really have that much qualifying pace. I assume Bowman, Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott are guarantees. And then the Trackhouse cars are the only mystery for me, frankly, on if they're going to have enough pace for top 10. Currently, though, it's Logano on pole by a considerable amount, by about a tenth of a second, over Kyle Larson, Dillon, Byron, Cendric, Burton, Gilliland, Herbst, Priest, and Briscoe, the top 10. And then after everybody goes, the top 10 will go out and do one more lap for the front row. And the front row drivers are guaranteed their starting positions as long as they don't crash out in the duels. The charter cars, or the open cars that did make qualifying, were the 60 of David Reagan and the 62 of Anthony Alfredo. So, not super surprising. I think Johnson was, he was close, but the Toyotas typically haven't had crazy qualifying speed in the past year. So I'm not very surprised by the fact that he didn't make it in on pace. I think the biggest surprise maybe to me was the 36 car for Front Row Motorsports. I think they definitely would have had a good shot at making it in if they were able to get a clean lap in. Todd Gilliland was considerably faster than Anthony Alfredo, and I think Michael McDowell will be as well. And last year that car also qualified in during time trials on Wednesday. So I think that if they miss out on Thursday night, I think they will be kicking themselves terribly for messing up this qualifying run for the 36. He had a technical problem on his lap. The gear, I think that the shifter knob quite literally just popped off, so was not able to shift. So tough break for Kaz Gralla. I am mildly surprised the 62 made it, but they do have, that assistance from RCR, and right now the Chevys are showing pace, including the RCR cars, so I'm not terribly shocked the 62 made it in on speed. Alfredo also, he has some experience in this next-gen car. He did a few starts for Live Fast last year, if you recall, and, he's obviously ran a full Cup Series season before with Front Row Motorsports, I believe, back in 2020. So, yeah. Yeah, Bowman, 6 straight Daytona 500 front row starts, most all time. Probably the most, not obscure fact, but just one of the most interesting ones out there. Yeah. So, Larson and Byron both currently 2nd and 4th on the leaderboard, so I would expect top 5 pace from Bowman here on this run. So, that'd be my guess. Currently, though, just barely above the cutoff line as he crossed the start line. So really not the fastest up speed lap. I think he'll still have enough pace down the back straightaway easily to, get in on time. But at least for now, though. And there's still a few more fast cars to go. This could be the end of the streak for Alex Bowman here. I mean, in my opinion, frankly, a kind of meaningless streak because it just kind of comes down to the team, not really to the driver. In Daytona 500 qualifying, really just a competition between engineers. But he's going to be really close here. And yeah, it's definitely not going to be enough off of turn 4. He's about 200ths off of Briscoe's time. And that'll slot him outside of the top 10. Which is, that'll definitely be something that they're going to be disappointed in right there for Hendrick, that have one of their cars miss the top 10 here. Especially considering that they've locked out the front row in this race the last 3 years, and Bowman himself has been on the front row for the last 6 years, a record that I don't think is probably ever going to get beat, but also just kind of, like I said, it comes down more to the team than the driver. Here comes Ty Gibbs, another one of the Toyotas, which the Toyotas really haven't shown the pace here in qualifying, so this one's probably going to be another one that misses the top 10 group. And Ty Gibbs, through turns 1 and 2, just, in the red. Toyotas don't seem to have that pace. Your prediction for the polls, the 21, says Kurt Busch fan. Interesting take. I think it could happen. Now with Bowman missing top 10, assuming Elliott gets in, I think that's really the only guarantee of the cars left. Even if both Trackhouse cars get in, that'll be 3 more cars. And he'll still have one more spot to give. I think that he could, make the top 10 now. To make it in, or to make the poll, that's another thing. But I think Burton could make the next round of qualifying. All right, how are you doing, Luis? Hello from Mexico. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Cheering for Daniel Suarez. Let's get it. I don't know how the Trackhouse cars are going to do on pace here. Chastain nor Suarez have gone so far. So, not really sure what to expect. The top Chevy teams have pace. So, I think they'll make it into the next round of qualifying. Obviously, though, still a long way to go for them. The duels in the 500. Qualifying is really a very small part of Speed Weeks in the grand scheme of things. So, Kyle Busch in the green, out of turns 1 and 2, up about half a tenth on Briscoe. If he can get up a tenth in the green, that's going to throw him up ahead of all the Fords. Hey, we got 50 people in here. I appreciate it. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll be bringing you pretty much all of the Speed Weeks action, except probably the duels because I have to do homework. Hey, we're up to 3,509 subscribers. Appreciate it. And that's going to be good for Busch. It's going to throw him up to 6th. So just ahead of Burton right behind Austin Cindric. Next up, Chase Elliott, the last Hendrick car to go. Now, I thought the Hendrick cars were locks, and Alex Bowman missed out. We'll see if Elliott can get in here or if he misses out. Buffalo, how are you doing? Yeah, Kerpish fan. I would appreciate. I like the support, but I have other things I gotta do. But hey, tune in for the truck race and Xfinity and potentially ARCA. I don't know. I might have to do more homework then as well. Life of a college student, especially an engineering student. Anyways, gotta write a paper and study for physics and a calc test at some point. Okay. Chase Elliott is going to easily make it into this next round. He's up 1/10.5 right now, and that's going to throw him up to right about the 5th position. And called it, 5th position. I'm getting really good at math, guys. I'm getting really good at decimals. Maybe that's why I'm an engineer. Okay. Okay, here we go. Chastain, Luis. This is probably going to be your good judgment for whether or not Suarez can make the top 10. We'll see what pace Chastain has here with the Trackhouse cars. Now, the 71 of Zane Smith, which is kind of a Spire car more than I'd say a Trackhouse car, did not have great pace. They're towards the bottom of the totem pole in terms of speed. Cross the line, Chastain, it looks like it's just a slightly ahead of Riley Herbst. I mean, the Ghost cars are right on top of each other. They're just flirting. Chastain's going to get a little bit ahead. About 100th, 200ths on him down the back straightaway. Okay, I think Chastain's going to have it. I think he's going to have it here. And this bodes well for Suarez. And this, I think, should bump him up to about the 7th position or so. Burton, man, whoever said Burton's going to win pole, it's going to be really close to see if he even makes it into the next round. And for Chastain, this will throw him up into the 8th position. And that puts Gilliland on the cut line now and knocks Terps out. Still an impressive run, though, from Herbst in terms of pace. But, yeah, it pretty much shows me that car is a Stewart-Haas prepped car, considering that he is right around 3 of his Stewart-Haas teammates on the leaderboard. Here comes Chris Buescher. Obviously, I think he can contend here for the win at the 500. But, yeah, the RFK cars haven't had much pace in qualifying, so I don't think he's going to make any crazy moves and go into the top 10 here. Maybe I spoke too soon. He is in the red, but only by 100th of a second down the back straightaway. It's going up a little bit now, but still definitely going to be quite a bit faster than his two teammates, Reagan and Keselowski. But yeah, every 100th of a second is huge here, obviously. But just to really dramatize the effect, 9th through 16th right now. That's 8 positions separated by 1/10 of a second. And Buescher is also going to fall into that gap, so make it 9 positions separated by 1/10 of a second. He's going to go 14th. Hey, Gilliland still holds on to the final spot in the top 10 for now. Here comes Truex. I don't see any magic happening for this Toyota. I don't think he's going to all of a sudden go into the top 10 here. Oh, Jeffrey, did the leaderboard get out of whack? I don't think it should be. I think the leaderboard should be accurate right now. Nope, should be good. The leaderboard updates itself. Okay, Truex, yeah, currently below the cut line. No surprise here. Okay, now after Truex goes, that just leaves McDowell, Suarez, and Bubba Wallace. And considering how the Toyotas have fared, I don't think Bubba's getting in. So it's really just McDowell and Suarez that I think are the two contenders that could go above the cut line. So really, Burton and Gilliland are the only two that could still get knocked down at this point. Okay, here comes McDowell. Currently, his teammate, Gilliland, is on the cut line. Let's see if McDowell, the 2021 Daytona 500 winner, can get his way into the second round of qualifying here. And currently in the green by about 100th of a second. I mean, a 100th of a second is a decent amount of time right now when we're talking about the cut line. That would take him not just to 10th, but up to even maybe 8th here. Down the back straightaway, that gap's up to almost 400ths of a second. I think looks like Gilliland's hopes of going into the top 10 are going to be taken out by his teammate, the old man, Michael McDowell. But, I mean, you don't expect much less from a Daytona 500 champion. And out of turn 4, now he's up a 10th of a second. This time here is going to be good enough for maybe even like 5th. We'll see. 6th on the leaderboard. Man, I was 1/1000th off from him being 5th. So, again, the math is almost perfect here. Okay. Only one car left to go that I would say can get into the top 10. Daniel Suarez, then after him, Bubba Wallace is the final car to go. But Suarez's teammate currently Chastain 9th on the leaderboard. Chastain trying to knock out Harrison Burton and join his teammate in that top 10. And into turns 1 and 2. He's in the red, but by a very marginal amount. Now, Chastain was also slightly in the red, but he gained a lot down the back straightaway. But Suarez has just given up more time. I don't think it's going to be enough from Suarez here. He's almost a 10th off into turns 3 and 4. And Suarez, yeah, this is not going to be enough, and this is really going to drop him probably outside the top 20 here. Not the lap they were looking for in that 99. This is going to throw him in the mid-20s for the duels. And 19th, actually, a little better than I thought. Okay, here we go. Bubba Wallace, the final Toyota to go. And, yeah, no Toyotas currently qualified inside the top 20, so I doubt Bubba Wallace is going to change that statistic here. All right. Thanks for watching. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Bubba Wallace is going to go, but my anticipation is, or we'll see if he's in the red or green currently going into turn 1. And they're not going to show the telemetry. Okay, now they will. Yeah, he's a 10th down. Okay, so Bubba Wallace is not going to cut it. And I'm not really saying that's Bubba's fault. It's really just the Toyotas did not really bring a fast qualifying car here to Daytona. Man, that thing is bobbing down the back straightaway. But we're going to have Logano, Larson, Dillon, Byron, Elliott, McDowell, Cindric, Busch, Chastain, and Burton in a pole shootout in the next round of qualifying. The top 10 will run again in reverse order, I believe, of their fastest laps. So, currently, that top group is separated by just about 2.5 tenths of a second, but at the top, it's a pretty big gap. Logano a 10th faster than Larson. We'll see if Logano can find that same pace in his next qualifying lap. Bubba Wallace, though, like I said, doesn't get it done. Gillen's the first driver to miss out, but Burton just sneaks into the top 10. And that means we got pole qualifying up next. I fixed it. Okay. Alan Crow, good to see you here again still. Doing a great job. Thank you, Alan. Caroline Wilcox, thank you for liking and subscribing. Do I bet the races? Not particularly. I am 19, so. Cool, 21 in the top 10, yeah. Hey, maybe they'll be the underdog winner this year. We've had, 2 in a row? McDowell and, wait, no, not 2 in a row. 3 in a row. McDowell, Cindric, and Stenhouse. So maybe they can keep it alive. That would certainly resurge Harrison Burton's career, at least temporarily. Wouldn't be the first time also that the Wood brothers have had a magical victory at Daytona. Thinking of Trevor Bayne back in 2011. Also, if you're just tuning in, though, first round of qualifying over. That means the next top 10 currently are going to go again. But in terms of the open cars, the drivers that don't have a charter, who made their way in, who did not. The drivers that made their way in tonight, Anthony Alfredo set a fast lap, as well as David Reagan in the number 60 for RFK. drivers that just missed out. Jimmy Johnson, most importantly. Then Kaz Grala had a mechanical issue, didn't even get to get a lap in. And then Greg Biffle in the 44 from New York Racing and B.J. McLeod in the 78 also did not make it. Now when it comes to who's going to face who in the duels, it should be B.J. McLeod versus Kaz Grala and Greg Biffle versus, not Greg Biffle, I keep doing that, J.J. Yaley in the 44 versus Jimmy Johnson for that other transfer spot. So that's who to keep an eye on in the duels tomorrow night. All right, guys, I hate to break it to you. I got that poll in the chat. Toyota, Ford, or Chevy, who wins the poll? The 11% of you guys that voted Toyota, you're already out of contention. Toyota did not even make it to the second round of qualifying. Tough break there. All right, I like those odds. 150 is not for me. I mean, how can you bet against Hendrick when it comes to winning the pole at Daytona? And I'm actually just going to throw down that as the next chat question. Who wins the pole? Hendrick or somebody else? Hendrick? Someone else. I believe a 9-year streak of front row starts for Hendrick. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. Let me hear you in the chat. Vote in the poll. Vote in the poll. Poll. Okay. Thanks, everybody, tuning in. Okay, let's see. Did somebody else subscribe? I think somebody else did in the chat. I appreciate it, Caroline. Yeah, we hit 3,500 subscribers during the Clash. That was cool. Yeah. Excited for all the action this weekend. I think, honestly, like the more, every year, like I just have more underdogs to cheer for, especially in the lower series. Like, Cup is fun. There's nothing like the Daytona 500, but like I just feel like every year I get more and more emphatic about, like the ARCA race, like the truck race, the Xfinity race, just the underdogs. Just trying to, who maybe only get a few shots at winning a race a year, and just to see how, winning a race like that can just change your career. It'll be like a highlight moment for a lifetime. It's so much fun to follow those storylines, and to tell you guys about those storylines if you don't know them. It feels weird. Jimmy Johnson, this is the first time I've seen him where it kind of looks like he's looking like a little older, man. His eyes have got a little more wrinkles on him. Beard's more gray than salt and pepper. Anyways, 150 is not me. Liked and subscribed. You seem to know your NASCAR. Appreciate it. Especially the fire emojis. Sorry if that just blew into the mic and made your ears hurt. Anyways. So, yeah, they're just showing it on the board again. Alfredo, Reagan locked their way in. Johnson, McLeod, Yaley, and Grala all are going to have to race their way in through the duel. But 2 of them will go home. Okay. So it's going to be Chastain. Or this order does not seem correct that they've got on the board now. Maybe it is. I'm not sure. I don't understand why McDowell would be last. Anyways, but yeah, Chastain. I think it's just numerical order, actually, which is not going to be how they're going to go. So Chastain, Cindric, Dillon, Larson, Busch, Elliott, Burton, Logano, Byron, McDowell, all going to be shooting out for this year's Daytona 500 pole. And looking at the chat, currently a majority of you guys say Hendrick's going to win the pole. Just barely, though. It's 57% to 43%. So that could definitely change. And you know what? I always like to see, a new winner, or, a streak ended. As impressive as, a record is, it's cool to see it, somebody finally topple it. Especially when it's, you're taking on a giant like Hendrick. Yep. Jimmy Johnson definitely had a rough year last season off the track, but this year, hopefully they can right the ship. I mean, he's running more races than he was going to do last year. I think he's doing 8 events, if I recall correctly. Daytona, Dover, 2 Kansas races. Oh, I don't think he's doing any road courses actually. Maybe Indianapolis, a few other events though. The only thing I'm happy about that is that, I mean, at least that means we're going to see 37 cars on track for a handful of events, and then the 91 car for a couple of times, so that bumps up to 38. I'd imagine the 36 with FRM will probably run by Riley Herbst at a few plate tracks, and then you'll have the Beard car at the plate tracks, so we could see a few more 40-car fields this season, which honestly, with every generation of race cars, more parts become available over the years. The cost of the parts go down, so the more often you'll see, open entries, appear because people have the money to do that. It's cooler to see that we're going to have probably a few more 40-car fields than just Daytona potentially this year, which yet we haven't seen a 40-car field out of Daytona, I believe, in the next-gen era. Actually, no, Watkins Glen, I believe, 2022. When you had the 26 and 27 Heisenberg cars, they were not fast by any means, but when you had those cars in the field, I think we had a couple 40-car fields as somewhat of a field filler on the road courses. Jeanette Baker, you're rooting for Larson to win this year's 500. I mean, I'd love to see it as a Larson fan. Hold on, can I pivot the camera without? No, I don't think I can really pivot, but on that side of the camera, there is a massive Kyle Larson flag on my wall. So I'd love to see Larson get the 500 win. Do I think his curse is going to end? No. I don't know. I hope it doesn't. Or I hope it does. All right. Thanks to everybody watching. Got 60 people in here. Feel free to drop a like and subscribe. Drivers are strapping in. We'll see. I believe this after this next commercial break, we'll finally get him going here. What got me into NASCAR? 150 is not for me. For me, it was my grandpa. He never answered the phone on Sundays. I guess probably, multiple factors. Definitely my, grandpa, I think, or my dad. I think my grandpa, I believe, though. The earliest memories I have of, NASCAR on the TV or when I was living at my grandparents' house when I was 5 years old for a little bit when my family was looking for a house. I think those are my first memories of watching laps of races here and there. Then obviously cars, a huge factor in my childhood. I don't know. I think that came out when I was 4 or 5, so right about in that same window of time. So cars is probably actually the biggest factor. I'm not even gonna lie. And then playing with Hot Wheels and toy cars. Yeah, but those are the 2 biggest factors. Probably my grandpa, and then just frankly cars, Lightning McQueen. And then I just started watching more races. My dad probably also put it on the TV occasionally. It wasn't really till 2014 though, when I was 10, that I would say I probably watched almost every Cup race that year. Jake, you think rain is gonna ruin this season? Or this not the season, this Daytona 500? Yeah. I think rain could sadly have a fairly big impact on this weekend. I hope it avoids us. I think that the duels should be okay. The truck race I think will be okay, but Saturday and Sunday are yikes. Yikes. I really hope the 500 specifically, though, is able to get it on Sunday. Just because you have just such a massive in-person crowd, the TV audience. Yeah. Also, Monday I'm going to be in class from noon to 3. So, yeah, that's not really going to work well for me. All right. Hold on 1 second. I was looking for something. There we go. Okay. All right. Man, we're still not rolling on track. I want to see some qualifying runs done. I think they're trying to give the cars enough time to cool and reset, because the tires do get hot, the engines get hot, everything gets hot, when they go and do their one lap. And so they try to get all the cars back into that perfect window, because a few cars, they ran their lap to get into the top 10 about 10 minutes ago, and other ones ran their lap like 30 minutes ago. So their car obviously going to have a lot more time to get cool and, get back to that good zone. Up to almost 40 likes on the night. Appreciate it. That is right. I did read. If you guys have ever been in a Barnes & Noble, probably about, 5 years ago, 4 years ago maybe, they still had them. They had the entire history of NASCAR books. Maybe you've seen them somewhere. I think I read that like back-to-back, like at least 2 or 3 times when I was in elementary school. That's another big thing that kind of got me really into the meat and potatoes of the sport. 150. I actually might be at Atlanta next weekend. That's like, I think, an 80% chance of that happening right now, maybe higher. So Atlanta, just for the Cup race, I believe. Beyond that, Dover has been one that's historically happened for me. This year, though, now that I'm in college, probably like a 30% chance of that happening. But over the summer, Watkins Glen for the Cup race for the 6 hours of the Glen. I guess that's actually in the fall now, but and I'll probably hit up a few more events over the summer. Really, nothing like set in stone. Historically, I've always just gone to Dover and Watkins Glen, but this year it's kind of going to be a little different. Also, Harrison Burton currently on track. We'll see where this lap time sets him up. Yeah, but I'm trying to think outside of that. I don't know. I'll definitely make my way to a race or two this summer. Burton throws down a 49.909, pretty much like dead on, 3,000 slower than his previous lap time. So very consistent for Harrison Burton. Remember, Logano's time is a 49.64. So we'll see if anybody goes faster than that in the second round. Chastain currently already a decent amount faster than Burton. That's a good sign for him. I'm trying to think, 150. Any other races I'm going to go to? Pocono is a decent one for me. I mean, I'm based down in the Northeast, so those are really, I'm listing off the tracks that are typically the closest to me. And I'll probably go to a few other racing events that are outside of the NASCAR realm throughout the summer. Probably like the IMSA race at Mid-Ohio, and at the Canadian Tire. Chastain's going to go to the top of the board, 49.75. Faster than his first qualifying run, so that's a good sign for him. Just booked your ticket for Chicago. I went last year. Was total chaos. Sleep deprived because I drove 10 hours through like the day, like the early morning through the day. And then, yeah, that's how it was for me. I was with one of the Xfinity Series teams for that event. I won a ticket giveaway, so that was pretty cool. But the rain kind of sucked. Everything kind of sucked. It was cool. But I was so shot. Like the weekend, like kind of, like I don't regret it, but I do regret it. Kyle Busch's lap time right now, looking pretty good. 2 100ths up into turns 3 and 4. Looks like he's going to be a hair faster than Ross Chastain. Yeah, exactly, 150. So yeah, but Chicago probably too far away to justify going. And you really just can't see much in person. It's still really cool. Kyle Busch to the top of the board with the 49.725. It's probably just, I don't know, I think I'd rather just watch it from home this time around. Also, the tickets are not that cheap. But it is a great atmosphere. Anyways. Here we go. Austin Cindric. Can the 2022 Daytona 500 winner put himself on pole here tonight? Currently going faster than Busch in the green. about 2/100ths up as he goes through turns 1 and 2. Make it 3 now. This lap time would put him into the 49.6s, which in the first round of qualifying we only saw one car in the 49.6s. Already looks like we're potentially going to see multiple. And across the line, this is going to be a 49, probably 6. And it's going to be a 49.667 for Austin Cindric. That'd be really close to Logano's time in the first time around. Not faster than him, but close. Here comes McDowell. Will he keep the trend alive of going faster in the second round of qualifying? Thanks everybody watching. Oh, drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Oops. There we go. I'm back. McDowell now also going faster than Cindric. He's now 200ths up. All these cars going a little faster than they did in the first round. Still, I want to see the Hendrick Chevrolets go before if I feel any confidence in these Fords. This is a fast time, though, from McDowell. I mean, he could be a 10th up on Cindric's time here. He's already a 10th up, actually, now, as he's going through turns 3 and 4. He's still got a lot of time on this track. Out on turn 4, this could be a monster lap here. He might be a 49.4. We'll see. Not quite, I don't think, actually. And McDowell's going to throw down a 49.536, our fastest lap time of the night so far. That is a quick lap there from McDowell. Here comes Elliott. Can the Hendrick Chevys, do they have something for that Ford at the top of the board? That rhymed unintentionally. And right now he's slower. He's slower across the line. And he's actually slower than Cindric right now on the Delta. Could this be the end of Hendrick's streak, guys? Down the back straightaway, McDowell, I mean, he's clear of Elliott. Elliott's not going to get the pole now. He's in third place, right, solidly. I mean, he's a 10th back off of McDowell's time right now. I mean, we're talking, that's a huge gap around Daytona. I mean, that's a whole whopping 2 car lanes. And across the line, Elliott's going to actually, I think, just steal the third position, actually. Not quite faster than Cindric. I mean, everybody's going faster than they did in the first round, just McDowell the most right now. Here comes Byron. Will this Chevy have anything for McDowell? With McDowell, now with Byron crossing the line, that leaves 4 cars left to go. Oh, and he flashed into the green for a second, but now he's in the red and actually fading back to 4th position. Listen in here. Okay, so sounds like, according to Larry Mack, his breakdown on the first round of qualifying, the biggest gap between Logano and the other guys at the top of the board. Logano got to his highest gear faster than any of them. Byron across the line, he's going to slot into the 4th position on the leaderboard, ahead of Kyle Busch, behind his teammate Chase Elliott. That leaves 3 left. Austin Dillon, Kyle Larson, and Joey Logano. Across the line, we'll see. Is he in the green or in the red? I think he's going to be in the red. And he is. And he's on pace with his teammate Kyle Busch right now. So behind the Hendrick Chevys by just the slightest of margins. Now Dylan's making up a little bit of ground on the relative, guys he's around, but still, based on McDowell, he's not going to set this pole time here. He might beat Byron if he's lucky. Actually, take it back. He just lost a lot of time there through 3 and 4. He's going to drop back potentially behind his teammate. He's a 10th and a half off of McDowell's time as we come through the tri-oval. And that's going to be good for the 5th position for Austin Dillon, just ahead of Kyle Busch. 2 cars left to go, Kyle Larson and Joey Logano. Could this be the end of Hendrick's streak, guys? Could this be the end of Hendrick's streak? Here we go. Let's see what Kyle's got. I just want to lock in that top 2 starting position across the line. He's in the green. Oh, but it's fading. It's fading. He's in the green by like three thousandths of a second. Oh, and now it's right there through the center of the turn. All these guys have lost a little bit. Larson, the least to McDowell. Down the back straightaway. He's within 100th of a second still now. I take that back, but he's close. This could still be good enough for second for Larson. Through 3 and 4. Oh, a bobble there from Larson. Oh, but it's okay. And he's gaining back. Off of turn 4. He's making up a little bit of ground. Oh, my gosh. This is going to be this is thousandths of a second. And does he go first? Does he go first? Second. Ooh, and by more than it indicated. But by 14 thousandths of a second for Larson. 1 car left to go. Joey Logano, he can get the pole, but he can also end Hendrick's streak of 9 years of having a front row start. Logano was fastest in round 1. We'll see if he can get that same speed in round 2. But if he does set the same time he had in round 1, that'd only be good enough for 3rd place. But right now he's in the green, and he's in the green by a lot. Logano's looking to spoil the party and have a lockout of yellow and red cars on the front row. 2 yellow and red Chevrolet, or 2 red and yellow Fords. That's 0.04 of a second for Joey Logano. This is going to end Hendrick's streak. But also off of turn number 4, Joey Logano is going to bring Roger Penske a Daytona 500 pole by 0.07 of a second. Top of the charts, Joey Logano, 49.465. So it's 2 Fords on the front row, then Larson in 3rd, Cindric 4th, Elliott 5th, Byron 6th, Dillon 7th, Busch 8th, Chastain, and Burton your top 10. Thanks for watching. Drop a like and subscribe. Woo! And the Ford wins the pole. And the Hendrick streak is snapped. By a whopping 14 thousandths of a second. That's how much it snapped that streak right there. Thanks to everybody watching. We'll be live for more of the Speed Weeks action. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a moment of it. All right, guys. I think I'm gonna head out. Thanks to everybody watching. Y'all have a good night. This is a fun hour and 40 minutes. Have a nice Daytona weekend. I'll see you guys